What's up, everyone, and welcome back to X-Ray, our Skeleton Crew after show. We're talking about episode 7. I did want to mention that we missed episode 6 last week, so we can talk about that at some point too tonight. We were just like too busy with the new year and everything, and then I got sick, so I'm fighting a cold, but I'm hanging in there. Excited to talk about this episode. How are you, Molly?
I'm doing good. I was sick a couple of weeks ago, and it's your turn now.
Yeah, you passed it to me like 3 weeks late. I don't know how you did it, but you waited. You waited until the second to last episode of Skeleton Crew, and
I
you
was
got me
trying to
sick.
wait. I was trying to wait until Skeleton Crew was over.
Yeah,
So
well,
I
you biffed it.
I undershot a little bit.
I appreciate you trying, but you messed up, and now I'm all stuffy.
Sorry.
But I'm doing all right. But if I say anything that sounds insane, it's the cold medicine talking, and definitely not me. So there. We'll probably get into theories later on.
Alex on cold medicine should be a good fun talk.
I did run a theory by Molly earlier, and she was like poking holes in it left and right, and I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
I don't know if I was poking holes in it. I was just kind of like, I don't know.
You just said things that I hadn't thought of at all. Anyway, we're going to talk about episode 7 of Skeleton Crew. We're going to be in so much trouble. Fun title. But we are not alone today. Our guest joining us is Savvy from Stardust Records. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Hello.
So how are you enjoying Skeleton Crew as a whole so far before we dive right into specific talk?
I'm loving it way more than I thought that I would. Honestly, I was anticipating this show, and I'm a big fan of movies like Treasure Planet and Pirates of the Caribbean, so I was excited for the pirate aspect of it. So I've been pleasantly surprised, especially this episode. I think this was like the most visceral my reactions have been. So yeah, it's a really beautiful show, and I love the like nostalgic feel to it. I think that's definitely been my favorite part.
Yeah, the Amblin vibe has been very strong and a lot of fun. Agreed about your reaction. This one was chilling in a lot of ways. Went some directions I did not expect it to go at all.
Yeah.
So we'll start off by sharing our images, our sketches of our favorite scene from this episode. I've learned to let Molly go last because hers always look great. I'll go first, and I'll really lower the bar, I think.
Okay.
I didn't know what to draw for a little bit, and then I realized I wanted to honor Brutus in some way, so I went and drew a 3-wolf moon kind of meme. I tried to make it at Atten and not a moon.
Is that the swirls?
I also can't tell if I got better or worse at drawing Brutus as my attempts went on.
I like that you have like 2 on the sides looking like in at the planet, and then one with just blank dead eyes.
I realized he doesn't really have pupils, so that was the last one I drew, and then yeah, that's him, I guess, after he got shot. Just blank and dead eyes.
I was so shocked when Jod shot and killed him. I was kind of like, well, I mean, not that I'm rooting for him necessarily, but I was like, no, he's a fan favorite.
Yeah. That's true. I was really upset too. He definitely grew on me more than I thought that he would.
I think they set him up to be the big villain of the show, and we are so trained as Star Wars fans, I think, to just guess that Jod is he's a pirate. Okay, sure. Like so many pirates in Star Wars are more fun than villainous, and so Brutus was like the villainous one, but then Jod came in and said no, and became so much worse than we thought he would be.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the turning point for him, where he became a full-on villain pirate. So Savvy, what did you draw?
I think my bar is gonna set, or my drawing is gonna set the bar way lower. But I love SM33 and his relationship with the children, so I drew him as best as I could.
Oh,
yay!
Love the kids. My kindergarten style drawing, but the scene where he betrays Jod and rescues the kids. Essentially, that was definitely my favorite scene. I loved that one.
Yeah.
That was a wonder. I love the idea. Like on paper, I feel like, and we'll talk about it, but the whole unclaimsies thing, I was like, that seems like it should feel silly, and it doesn't in this show. It felt like it just felt completely in line with everything that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I know what Molly drew, so I'll edit that.
So that was also one of my favorite parts of this episode was SM33 not only like standing up to Jod, standing up for the kids, but also deciding that claimsies is officially part of the pirate code now, which I really enjoyed. But I drew SM33 punching Jod / Captain Silvo because that was just very satisfying to see. And he says close enough, talking about the kids' pirate code. So yeah,
you draw SM33 so well.
I've drawn him once before on the whiteboard, so I was like, okay, I'm getting okay at drawing him.
Yeah,
Molly's definitely the artist of the family in the podcast. Well, let's dive into the episode itself. And we all start off with, I really like all the episodes that have started with a cold open with the parents.
Yeah.
Some of the episodes I've just wished that we got a little bit of extra story beats with them just to see what they were up to. But I think that they have told a complete story of their plan. What did you think, Savvy, of their little device and their mission to get it up across the barrier?
I think I said this when I was watching the episode live, but it reminded me a lot of Race to Witch Mountain, or I think that's what the movie is called, or like E.T. or something like that. It had like a very, I want to say it again, but like a nostalgic movie film feel to it, where I felt like I was kind of with them, like Stranger Things almost. Like the stakes are pretty high, all the parents are falling, and you're rooting for like the one to get there, and it's Fern's mom. And I'm loving that it's kind of like a switch back and forth between seeing the kids' journey, but also like the parents' journey to leading the kids back home. I know that the stakes aren't so high with the parents, but like you don't know who the supervisor is yet. Like you don't know the actual plans that these security droids have. You don't know like the behind the scenes and like what the parents really know. So I guess in that aspect, I was a little nervous because they have this communication device and it's really the only way to get their kids back, so that they know of. But yeah, I thought it was a really great scene. I think my favorite part of the whole thing, the scene in specific, was the parents like one by one falling, because you were like, oh, which parent is it going to be?
Yeah, they were having like a little relay race with the little beacon that they made, and I like that Neil's mom, I forget what Neil's mom's name is.
Numa, I think.
Numa.
Yeah, Numa.
She was the first to like suggest the plan. She's like, I'm gonna grab it and run.
I wish she got to make it a couple steps, but yeah, that the security droids are on it.
Yeah. I wonder if that makes me think if anyone like does really bad stuff on Adadon, do they have a jail that they send people to, or like how do they like punish criminals on this planet? It seems like all the adults just kind of do whatever they're told.
It doesn't seem like crime is very big on Adadon, but I'm sure they have a jail, and I bet we'll see Jod in it by the end of the series.
If they don't have one, they'll build one just for him.
Yeah. Just lock him in the vault with all the money he loves so much. Yeah, I totally agree. Loved the relay race aspect of it. I've loved throughout the series that the parents just aren't really that good at breaking the rules and going against the security droids and everything. Like Wendell trying to plug that device into his computer and getting found out so easily. I mean, I like that they are treated as if they're not action heroes. They're just parents doing their best. And yeah, they're going to take it a few steps and get stunned. But, you know, working together, they get the job done. And I really like that seemed to connect back to the lessons Wim has had to learn about it's not always about swinging a lightsaber and like kicking the door in and saving the day. Sometimes it's just like doing what little you can in the moment and succeeding together. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think that maybe after all of that, Farah was like, "Oh my god, I feel so alive," and she's just like full of adrenaline because she did something against the law.
She's going to start breaking the law a lot more now. They're going to need to build a jail for her.
Her and Jod in separate spots, timeout squares.
Although it is. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Molly kind of said it a little bit earlier, but you said like Numa, very Neil of her to be the first one to run, but I feel like you can definitely see the relationship between the parents and like who got from which parent, who got what from which parent. So yeah, that was a good thing to point out. I loved. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was going to say that Molly pointed out that it looked the device itself just looked kind of like ET's ship.
Yeah,
I got from just the little cobbled together device. It reminded me of the speak and spell that ET makes to contact his people. But then Molly was like, also, it kind of looks like the actual ship.
Yeah,
and I like that this show is doing homages without being just like direct one-to-one translations. I thought that was fun.
Oh yeah, anytime you see kind of like lights shining through crowded woods with like ferns, especially the ferns, I very vividly remember
Ferns and flashlights,
ferns and flashlights in ET. So as soon as those lights came on from the droids, I was like, this definitely feels ET inspired.
It also makes me think, Molly, you saying that maybe Farah felt something new, maybe that awoke something in her. We can shift over to the kids, because I am kind of wondering, Fern suggests maybe they'll let us keep the ship, which sounds ludicrous, but we don't know how this story is going to end and if Adadon will still be isolated or what. And I do wonder if like Farah maybe got a taste for adventure and is like, I'm keeping this ship, especially if we don't know what's going on with the supervisor. Maybe she is technically the most high-ranking person there.
That's I don't want to jump ahead, and we still don't know anything about the supervisor, but if the current supervisor they get rid of him or her or them, or if I think that they're just a droid running a program, so if they get rid of that, I think Farah should be in the running at least for new supervisor. She's done the work.
Yeah.
And now maybe after all this, she can, relax a little bit, take the stick out of her butt, and just...
Well, go ahead.
It kind of makes me have like a little bit of a theory, and I don't know. A lot of people have two different ones, but one of them that's sticking out to me is that there's like no supervisor, that it's just the droids kind of running the show and this automated voice. I don't know if anybody remembers this movie. It came out a while ago, but it's called Eagle Eye. And it was like all of the security people were like following this one supervisor essentially. And then like the main character figures out that it's just this like automated system that they could defeat. So I don't know. That would be really cool. But I noticed about the ship that I wanted to point out is that like with the autopilot system when it was coming in, one, it's the key to get into the planet, so it must be like an origin of the planet, and it had like its own landing pad, and there's this like own specific landing sequence for it. So I wonder if I'm forgetting his name. Is it Renard or Renaud or something like that? Where like he's the supervisor or was the supervisor. But that's the other theory. I feel like both. It could go either way, I think.
That's kind of what I was telling Molly about earlier, and Molly made some good points that made me think maybe not.
Well, I guess I never thought of it as he was at one time the supervisor and then decided to leave and pursue a life of pirating, and then just left the program and the droids to run everything while he left.
I can't decide about Tak. Like there seem like there are mysteries surrounding Tak Renard, King No Head, which I do think is going to come back, and the supervisor. So
Mhm.
it would be nice and efficient if all three were connected. But
Yeah.
I am leaning towards Rinid being just a legendary pirate because in his search for Adadon, he talks about being the last Old Republic mint. And I guess if he were part of the Old Republic, he would just call it a Republic mint.
Mm.
But now I'm getting into technicalities. But I also am like, okay, well, how did he crash the ship? Because it should have been on autopilot. And
Mhm.
SM33 says
Yeah,
that
that's true.
he drove the ship into the planet. So I'm like, maybe he does have some supervisor clearance or something.
Or like a deal with the supervisor or something. Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of questions that I won't mind if they don't necessarily answer them fully. And one of them is like how the ship crashed. I don't know if they're going to go into that or not, but I am really curious if like they tried to override the autopilot and then ended up crashing or something like that, or if they
Yeah.
crashed on their way out and not in.
I will say that what I really like about the Tac Rinid being the supervisor theory is that I think it would be yet another lesson for the kids about, piracy comes in all shapes and sizes, and that he might be a politician, but he's still a pirate, and he's hoarding wealth, and he's treating his people poorly. I do think that that would be a fun theme to pull in, a very George Lucas theme as well, right at the end to be like, nah, like the supervisor is a pirate of sorts, or at least a corrupt politician or something.
Yeah.
We went way forward to the end of the episode, and that is fine. But I wanted to jump back and talk about Wim being on the Onyx Cinder, feeling sad about going home, sad that the adventure is over. I really loved that he was the one that said, like, I wish I'd never pushed the button. And all the other kids that used to be mad at him for pushing the button are like, don't say that. Like,
Yeah.
it was scary, but like we had a great time. It was a good adventure and we grew. And I loved all of them kind of coming to encourage him.
They've all really bonded through this whole experience, and they're all like coming to defend each other's choices now, and that's really sweet to see. And I loved seeing Neil. We didn't see it for very long, but we got to see a little bit of actual slap ball between
Oh, yeah.
Neil and Fern playing. That was really cute. But yeah, Wim is back to kind of where he was in what was it, the second episode, where all the kids were like, we have to go back, we're going to be in so much trouble, and Wim is just excited for the adventure and to like get away from his boring home life.
Yeah. I love that. I thought it was very real of him to still be nervous about taking his test. It's just like a
Yeah.
very kid thing to have all this stuff going on, but your main and really only worry is like school. And he was like, "Oh, I still have to take the test when I get home." But yeah. I love, like you said, how these kids have come together and have learned to kind of bounce off of each other in a way, and like they've detected each other's feelings, and kids are so empathetic and they haven't really like learned how to not be yet, I think. And I love how understanding of each other that they are, especially after the last episode. It was a really mushy and warm episode where we kind of see them, becoming a little bit vulnerable with each other, and they miss home and they have some stuff going on. And there's some differences between each other that, yeah, they are different, but they're here all on this same mission together. And I loved seeing the aftermath of that in this episode, especially in the later events of it that I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
seeing Fern and Neil like running around the ship and laughing and playing a game was really nice. Just that
Yeah.
it was like seconds long, but I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, it's nice to see kind of over the course of the last 7 episodes, and after the last episode, we see them meet, and like we see the tension between all the different characters, and then in the last episode they address the tension and kind of like figure out what to do about it and what they should each kind of do to change a little bit. And it's really sweet to see that happen in kids, because yeah, it is harder for them to grasp tensions like that and then learn how to adapt and how to change. And I hope they're friends forever.
Yeah.
So they make it back to Adadon. They are captured by Jod, who kind of puts everything together. Um, I wanted to talk about Jod and Brutus before we have to say goodbye to Brutus. Uh, I'm curious, Savvy, what you think about Jod claiming that the crew loves him. Do you think that they love him, and do you think he truly believes that?
I think that they love treasure and the idea of treasure. I've been thinking a lot about Treasure Planet, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but I feel like the story is definitely inspired by it. And I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but it's probably a similar situation where they love the idea of coming out of this mission richer and not hungry. So Jod is kind of that like physical manifestation of that for now. And I don't know if this is like too deep into Jod's character, but I think that he's like very lonely and insecure and has found purpose in this treasure that he's been chasing for a long time. So I think that I don't think that he believes that they love him. I think that he knows that they love the idea of what's to come because I think that he's in the same boat.
I love what you just said about having found purpose in the treasure,
Hmm.
which I feel like he could have found purpose in helping the kids.
Yeah.
That to me was his chance to actually have a crew that appreciated him and looked up to him and needed something from him, and he could have worked to help them. But instead, it's all about the treasure, and I think that's a really great point.
Yeah. And like Jod in this episode, first of all, like Jude Law's acting in this one was so good. It's been good the whole time, but when we see him like really turn on the kids and like yell at them and not bat an eye when Wim is crying, that is wild. And I get the feeling that he's telling these kids that they're spoiled and sheltered, and you know, a little bit, it feels a little bit like he might have been spoiled and or sheltered as a kid and is then kind of reimagining that. And like, I don't know, I don't know if we're going to find out anything about his actual childhood, but yeah, he's going through it.
I definitely agree with something else you said, Savvy, that I do think he's lonely. I keep jumping back to episode 3 when they won't let him onto the ship until he tells them the truth. And he says he's like lost and alone. I'm like, I believe him in that moment. There are these times where he has been honest with the kids. Uh, so yeah, I think that that is absolutely true. May have lost Savvy
Oh
actually.
no.
I'll keep an eye on out for her and
She said
bring her back in.
she was having a bit of a lag with the
Okay.
internet, so
So
um
Molly, I agree that I don't know that they're going to do more with Jod's backstory. I don't necessarily think they have to explain everything about him. Uh, but I do like I would not be surprised if we learned that he was a Jedi survivor, maybe a Padawan or a youngling that, lost everything and then lost himself. I could
mhm.
see that being the case, but
Yeah, I almost would rather them not go into it much, because we, despite what happened in his past, we're seeing what he's doing now with these kids, and he is not changing for the better. So like I don't need to know any more about his past really. Like he's got this one last episode, and to make any kind of attempt to redeem himself, and I'm kind of like, he might still try, just because of the like the Long John Silver of it all. Like if the kids get into some kind of danger, there's a chance he might redeem himself if he decides to help them. But I mean, he's put these kids in a lot of danger himself. So I don't even know if that would cut it. But yeah.
Let me see if I think Savvy's still reconnecting. Yeah, like I don't really think I need to know who Jod was to understand who he is now and where he's headed. Like I know enough
Right.
about him. That's something that if someone wanted to come along and write the Jod story down the line, then I'd be happy for that, but I don't necessarily need it right now.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi went out briefly.
Oh, that's okay.
All
It's
good.
now.
So we were just discussing whether or not we feel we need to know more about Jod and where he came from in his history before this series ends, or are you happy with what you know already?
Being the type of person I am, I would love to know more, I think, but I feel like there's a lot of beauty in mystery, and I think that who we see now is the Jod that we should know rather than the Jod that, we kind of need to know more of. I think that the journey has shown us a lot already, and I think what he's said could be a mixture of a truth and a lie. But I think the meaning of his story and like where he is in his life now, if he becomes redeemed in this last episode, then I think that that's what we should know. But if not, then maybe it would be interesting to see why he would betray a couple of kids that don't deserve anything bad to happen to them ever. So I think it'd be interesting to see I'm somewhere in between. I think I would love to see a backstory, but I think I am pretty happy with the Jod that we're seeing now. Like I'll always keep comparing them, but I think it's going to be like Long John Silver from Treasure Planet, and like a couple of these stories where they have like a very one-track mind, but then either they are redeemed or they're not. So
Yeah.
It's been a minute since I've seen Treasure Planet. Does he make it out? I can't remember Long John Silver.
He does, and him and Jim part ways at the end. But I guess spoilers if you haven't seen Treasure Planet to those watching. But yeah, he abandons his dream of finding the treasure to help save Jim, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah. If I think you could say that Jod is a big character. I don't know if I would call him a main character. I think the kids are the main characters, and if Jod were more of a central main character of the show, then I would want to see more of a backstory for him and know why he does the things that he does. But because he came in, we found him in jail. The whole time we've seen him take advantage of kids, lie. So many other characters have told us that he is a bad guy, and he went by this other name. So I like seeing him in that light and having him not be redeemed. I would be all right if he doesn't get redeemed.
That's something that I'm really surprised that it could go either way for me, and I love that. Like for most of the series, I just assumed, yeah, he'll be kind of rough around the edges. I thought Molly he would be like a main character because it's Jude Law, and I do think he is a main character, but he might not have as dramatic of an arc as I thought. And the kids have the larger arcs, whereas he might just stay the same the whole time. And if he does, I'll buy it after his performance in this episode.
Yeah. I also, again, not to dig too deep into his character, but I don't know, maybe if what he says is the truth about how he grew up alone and how, he kind of had a little bit of a difficult childhood from what he insinuated. Maybe he's jealous of these kids, and as childish as that sounds, I guess no pun intended, but maybe he won't be redeemed in that aspect, and he just was jealous of them, I guess, in a way. So, I don't know. They get to have this group of people, these other groups of kids that understand each other, and yeah, they fight, but they ultimately always come together in the end. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Your Wi-Fi may have gone out, but did say that I think you're absolutely right about him saying he's lonely and that being the truth.
Mhm.
Those moments in episode 3 and in episode 5, I think when he has a little heart to heart with Wim, like I think that is his real self coming out,
Yeah.
more so than the pirate front that he puts up.
Mhm.
So, and I saw this from our friend Alden saying that him not stepping on the mouse, which did scare me, but instead scooting him out of the way, it's like he isn't fully cruel.
Mhm.
He is
Yeah.
pretty cruel, but he isn't all the way. And
Yeah.
weirdly, I did have that thought where I was like, if he stepped on the mouse, then he's irredeemable to me.
He killed the mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that.
He's just like he's fed up and he's frustrated, which makes sense. He's spent all this time dealing with these kids and kind of like putting on this nice act because he's trying to get to this treasure planet. So it makes sense that he would kind of lose his temper towards the end. But last thing I'll say about Jod's backstory, it does give off the kind of energy of maybe he was a Padawan and trained for just a little while as a kid at the temple, and maybe he got kicked out because the kids training there could be described as being spoiled and sheltered. So like he could be thinking about his own childhood training and then getting kicked out or deciding that, he couldn't cut it or
It
whatever.
does, it does remind me of the Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade novel,
Yeah, I was
which
just thinking
included,
too.
yeah, it includes a character who was force sensitive but didn't quite make the grade. And they let him stay at the temple and work and have a life there, but he resented all that. So yeah, it would be interesting if Jod was like, I can use the Force, but not enough to be a Jedi back when I
Mhm.
was a kid. And so the Jedi didn't take me in, and he saw all the kids at the temple spoiled and sheltered. So that's interesting. But see, I'm fine with all this idea of him almost being a Jedi or being a Jedi that survived Order 66 as a kid. Like, yeah, I don't feel like I need to know the answer right now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I kind of like the speculation of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we spent a long time talking about Jod and how he treated the kids, but we did kind of skip over both of your favorite scenes, the unclaimsies. So let's talk about that moment because I did love that moment.
Again, so frustrating for Jod to be like, what is claimsies and unclaimsies? Like, what are
He's
you
had to
talking
deal
about?
with this little children BS for who knows how long. And, like again, it bites him in the ass. It's so funny.
Yeah. And it makes total sense that at this point SM33 would honor and respect what these kids are doing and saying more so than Jod, because keeps seeing Jod be such a jerk and take advantage and lie. So I love that he's like, yeah, the claimsies thing, that checks out for pirate code in my book.
Yeah, I think that I'm biased, I think, because I love droids and their companions in Star Wars. Like I love Cassian and K2 and L3 and Lando and but this one in particular I love a lot because it's this like I wouldn't say grumpy, but this like kind of seasoned droid who's really rough around the edges, both literally and figuratively, with these group of kids that are super unexperienced. And I think that scene kind of showed that droids have soft insides, I think, rather than just circuitry. But I loved that scene in particular because of the group hug afterwards. Like they were just so emotional and happy that they were being saved by somebody that they ultimately trusted really and came to maybe love in a way. So it was just really a really sweet moment, I think, for all of them. And then it had to
Yeah.
be ruined by John.
Yeah, it's true because we saw the episode from Ed Akron when, SM33 has the potential to like short circuit and and try to kill and rip these kids apart, but they still can see the good in him, and like he comes back around and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna stick up for these kids because it's the right thing to do. Like even the droid knows that, and Jod cannot do that.
Although that could be some foreshadowing for Jod to
That's
show
true.
that, you know, he's not so far. You can make a mistake, even though I don't think SM-33 had like full control of his faculties at that point. But you
True.
know, you can almost kill the kids and they will still accept you if you admit that it was a mistake and take their side later. But yeah, the close enough, like I said up top, I feel like in another show or with a lesser director or writer, like everyone pulled this off so well that to me it didn't feel cheesy or eye rolly. Like, oh, that worked. Like to me, it worked completely because the pirate code is BS. Like it, like Captain Barbosa said, they're more of guidelines and they're gonna follow them if they want to.
Yeah.
So SM-33 just give him a little bit of that like droid logic where he's like, yeah, sure, and he'll knock Jod out.
Yeah.
Great. Just great.
The pirate code exists until they don't want it to, right? Like until it becomes inconvenient for it to be a thing. So
it's almost like rules in a kid's game. It's like, here's these set of rules and this is what we're going to follow. But then the moment you do something that I don't like, the rules are going to change. So pirates and kids aren't so different, I think. And that's what the show is showing us.
For real. Yeah. I mean,
pirate code is like house rules. Like, oh, well, this is how we play Monopoly. I don't know how you do it, but
yeah, my group of pirates says claimsies and unclaimsies. So.
Right.
I love that.
But I think you're right, Savvy, that they're showing how similar pirates are to children. They're just selfish. They just want to take, and they make up these rules as they go along. Whereas the kids are over here like growing up and changing and becoming better people.
Yeah. Pirates forever kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wanted to point out just how impressed I am with this show and its writing in its earlier episodes, where I know people were like, I liked the early episodes, but I didn't like love them as much as some of the other people. And now that I have seen the whole picture, almost the whole picture, I'm like, okay, now I can fully appreciate everything they were establishing in those early episodes and how well they're paying off now. But those things like SM-33 saying, can't say I remember no Adadon, which is just a funny piratey thing to say, turning into, no, literally, I can't say it. And then claimsies from episode 1 turning into this big pivotal moment. It's so great. And Molly and I are kind of convinced now that Slapball is going to become something pivotal in the finale.
I just want it to, because I want to see, ever since Neil said he was really good at it, I want to see him slap that lightsaber out of Jod's hand.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. And very kidsy, I think. Like they would use a kid's game to save the day, I think.
The fact that we saw kids playing it at school in episode 1, Neil says he's really good at it. We've seen them play it now. I feel like they do keep reminding us what Slapball is so that Neil can pull it out and knock the lightsaber out of his hand or just hit him in the head or whatever. But I think in our reaction to the episode, we were both like, oh my God, Neil can challenge Jod as captain. And instead of combat, it'll be a game of Slapball or something. And again, SM-33 would be like, yeah, good job. Close enough.
Yeah. I also thought that it would be cute if Slapball also comes back in the very end when like Neil, maybe Runa asks to play it with Neil and Neil lets her win or something. That would be, I hope Runa comes back and we get to see them actually talk to each other.
I'm telling you, my actual finale theory is that Neil will have that Samwise Gamgee moment where
he's gonna propose and marry.
He's gonna be married by the end of the episode. Yeah, no, he's gonna have the courage to just go and talk to Runa, and he'll be a brave boy.
Yeah,
it is a very Samwise moment.
well, he's built up all of this courage and he's gone on this great adventure, and I think that it would be a really sweet moment that to have that courage to ask the girl that he likes out. And likewise for Wim, like all of these kids to have this courage, but Wim to take his test and not be afraid. But
Yeah.
I guess like if the test will even exist by the end of this, because now they
Yeah.
know the secret.
That's true. Adadon might change forever. But you actually bring up something that we kind of skipped over the parents' message to all the kids, which I thought was really, really nice.
Mm.
But Wim's in particular, I think that he really needed to see his dad say that he was sorry. And I think that that is one of the big things that was making Wim feel anxious about going home, is that
Right.
not only does he have to take a test, but he's going to be lonely again. And
As
like,
soon as they sees his dad too, like all the kids like run up and immediately hug their parents. And as soon as he sees his dad, he kind of stops for a second because I think he's so used to like getting scolded that
mhm.
he's like not like sure if he's gonna get a hug or not. It's so sweet when he
Mhm.
does go in for the hug and he kind of like comes back and goes in for another hug. Oh,
Yeah, he's a good kid.
yeah.
And yeah, seeing Wendell admit that, like, I should have listened to you. He doesn't
Mhm.
say I should have read you that bedtime story, but like, that's what I feel like is in the heart of the message, is that
Yeah.
like, I want to be there for you. I need you. And I don't think Wim was feeling that.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
because we saw how his dad reacted when he got like sent to the principal or whatever's office at school, and so he didn't want something like that to happen again.
Mhm.
and
Well,
for other fathers, I want to point out, I forget Neil's dad's name, but I've seen some people ask, like, well, where has he been in all of this? And I just assume he is at home taking care of the twins in Tulu. Like,
Yeah,
some
someone's got to
someone,
look after that crazy house of kids.
yeah, they have a
Yeah.
lot of kids. They're losing teeth, so I assume he,
We love a stay-at-home dad.
yeah.
he's the father that stepped up.
Yeah.
Did he say anything in the message, now that I think about it, or was he just standing there?
I think he was just standing there being stoic.
Yeah.
Love that for him.
I'm excited. I hope that something that I hope happens at the end is that I hope Wim is the one who has a bedtime story to tell his dad with all this.
Oh, that's
cute.
so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah, it's like
His-
maybe it's not his dad's forte, but it's definitely Wim's. So
Yeah,
If
his dad will be like, "So what did you get up to?"
yeah,
Like,
that'd
well,
be really cute if they just sat down on the couch and he was like, "Can you tell me a story of what you did?" Like,
yeah.
that's very sweet.
Mhm.
I hope you're right. So let's see. Now we're kind of getting to the planet. We fly through the barrier, which was a fun action sequence. I really like the design of Adadon, the whole camouflage of the barrier.
mhm.
I was surprised to see how far inside Adadon actually was.
Yeah.
Like what Molly and I were talking about, when they leave the planet, it seems like they get through the barrier really fast, whereas it was much more of a journey this time.
Yeah.
But
And
I like the way it all looked.
we had been theorizing a lot about the barrier and the little red satellites and what were they doing. So I liked that they kind of explained a little bit about what this was, because I guess from the outside it looks like a huge maelstrom, like a poisonous maelstrom. I think that's what Brutus calls it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that would definitely deter people from trying to go in there. And then I like that they had all the satellites there to show that like this was created, and the key is to like have a ship from Adadon. It's probably got some sort of sensor or something on it that it'll let those through, but nothing else, which is just really cool technology. And it did remind me a little bit of like the High Republic storm wall
Yeah, kind
stuff.
of like the storm wall, or I
Yes.
think. Go ahead.
Sorry. Some people were theorizing that it's similar technology.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it reminded me of Iago as well. I think it had like a defensive grid in the Clone Wars. But yeah, this would be interesting if this is Old Republic tech. that won't let ships in real space pass through, and then the storm seeds in High Republic are more about stopping hyperspace. But that could be a fun like evolution of the same technology.
Hmm.
Yeah. That'd be
Here's something Molly and I were discussing earlier. Do you think At Akron and the other Jewels of the Old Republic are also mints? Because they, at least At Akron, had the same satellites. It had like the fading barrier around it, and it seemed like almost a direct mirror of Adadon. So I'm wondering if they are all mints, and Adadon is the final one.
That would be really interesting. And I wonder how they would incorporate that in the last episode. Like if it would just be something word of mouth or something that leads into like another season if we get one, or that would be really cool actually. I'd be down if it was like this triangle or I guess group of mints, but yeah, that'd be really interesting to see and learn why, I guess, that those were the chosen planets or yeah. I don't know. That'd be cool. That's a good
I think we might learn a bit more about just all of those planets in general when we go to see the supervisor, because it's going to be essentially, I think, the same room that they were in on Ad Akron that was all like
The
torn
tower.
apart. That's in the tower, yeah. So I think they're going to go to that room and maybe find out a little bit more. I'm starting to think maybe they're all mints. But before that, I was like, oh, it would be cool if like this planet were in charge of the money and this planet was in charge of something different, and like they all kind of did different stuff.
It could have been, but it's just interesting to me that Ad Akron seems like an identical place, except for a
Yeah.
couple like King No Head. We haven't seen any statue like that on Adadon. So I still think I'm waiting until next episode and the previously on, and I'm crossing my fingers that they'll be like, look, it's King No Head, just to like remind everyone. So then I'll know it's going to be addressed.
Hmm.
But who knows? It might just be a rundown statue. Also, we have to see the giant gun on the school again.
Oh yeah, I don't know if that's gonna come back or not, but I forgot about that. Because I think Neil is like the only person that knows that a gun is up there.
I think it'll come back again. Just the way that this series has been written so far, I think they're going to bring it back.
Yeah. Kelly brings up an interesting point that they could
Oh, hey, Kelly.
be calling it the High Republic, or they could be calling what we know as the High Republic the Old Republic.
I do still think there's a chance that that's the case.
Yeah.
They haven't like explicitly said, although in the subtitles it always is capital O, capital R. So to me, that's more officially old Republic than Obi-Wan calling the Galactic Republic the Old Republic.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's kind of just me wanting it very badly to be
Sure.
that specific era.
I definitely can see that happening, but I also really want Kelly to be right. I love the idea of them incorporating the High Republic into it, especially with like the Maelstrom storm and the same similar tech to the storm wall. I don't know. It would be really cool to see it like that.
All the artwork too is very reminiscent of
Art Deco
of the High Republic.
It's true. Okay, so how often do you think they get Republic emissaries? Or do you think that hasn't happened in a long time? Because it kind of seemed like that was a surprise to everyone there.
I don't think that had happened in a really long time, because Farah, when the announcement started going off, the droids all kind of went into like this autopilot mode where they're just like, yes, the emissary is here, let's go welcome them. And everyone is like, what is this voice of God playing? Like, what is happening? It didn't
Stephen Fry.
It didn't seem like they were used to that happening.
Yeah.
And Molly, you pointed out how shocked Farah looked.
Yeah, she was like, I'm the undersecretary or whatever her title is, and I don't think I've ever heard this announcement before, or like heard from the supervisor.
At
like
the very
this.
least, she was shocked to hear his voice.
Right. and that he is Stephen Fry.
Yeah. I think that they also don't know what one looks like because Jod came in his, ratty clothes, and they're like, "What the hell? Sure,
Yeah.
this is an emissary."
Earlier when we were talking about whether or not Takran had become the supervisor or like helped develop this program or plan or whatever, because it would be interesting if a pirate came, created this supervisor code, and ran it so that any pirate who comes in, the droids are like, "You must be the emissary. Here's our money," you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did just take him right to the money.
Here it is.
Yeah, no identification needed. They're just like, yep,
Yeah.
sure,
And
you
then
must be.
it's we'd also talked earlier about trust being a huge part of this show and like who you can and can't or should or shouldn't trust. The
Mhm.
droids are just trusting Jod saying, "Yep, I'm the emissary," and they're like, "Okay, here you go."
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what all they cover for the supervisor. I think they will like unwrap some more of that mystery. I think they have to. But yeah, I do kind of want him to be a pirate or in league with the pirates, or maybe he's just a dude up in his tower hoarding money. I don't know.
I'm excited to learn more. Like
Me too.
like I said earlier, the finale has a lot it could cover, but I think the supervisor stuff is the stuff I'm most interested in because that's been a big mystery from the very beginning.
So yeah, what are our hopes for the finale? I'll say I think my top one is the big gun in the cafeteria or on the school. I want to see that again.
I want the supervisor to be just a program that they're running. That's kind of been my idea since the beginning. I want that, and I want Runa. I want Neil to talk to Runa.
I think definitely Wim and his dad's bedtime story moment. And the kids staying friends, I think. I don't want them to split up, and I don't think that they would ever do that, but I think that it would be really sweet to, see them all like walking to school together or taking the bus or getting to ride on Fern's like little motorbike, and that'd be a cute little sequence to see.
Oh yeah, I wonder if Fern is gonna have her race
Oh,
with
right.
that little turd of a boy. What's
Yeah.
his name?
Bonge Falfa.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
there'll
wanna
just be a good shot of him seeing Fern do something incredible. Like,
Yeah.
so, okay,
Yeah.
I do kind of think the pirates will get through the barrier somehow. Maybe Jod will get the barrier shut down. They come in, and then they can get the big gun out. I also think that Kim is probably going to play another role.
Mhm.
She said, "Call me if you ever need help." So I think they'll find her business card or whatever. however
Yeah.
she
They
however
haven't had
she let them contact her.
they haven't had time to call Kim, but she said they need help.
Do you think that her name is Kim because of Kim Possible and the "Call Me, Beat Me if you want to reach"?
Now I do.
Just came to mind. So I loved her. I hope that's not the last we see of her. I hope she's in everything in this timeline coming out. She reminds me of not to go on a Kim tangent, but she reminds me of Between the Lions from PBS.
I've
And
never seen that.
wow, really? I loved Between the Lions, but it was just like these lions with glasses, and there was this hawk in a nest, and then the owl from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, I do recognize this.
Oh.
Yeah. There were puppets or something. I don't know if Kim is a puppet, but she had that like feel to her.
Yeah. I do think Kim is an interesting character that has potential to pop up in like any other show or film that is timeline appropriate for her. Like she reminded us so much of like almost like a Dr. Aphra kind of character that's
Part
just
of me
like,
thought when he was
yeah,
like, "I'm taking you to see a friend who knows a lot about this old stuff. She might stab us in the back." I was like, "Afra?"
right. And we still don't know who was talking on that comms with her. I would like to think that that could have been Afra, but I don't know. I think it would be cool to see her pop up somewhere else.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't think I have any other major hopes for next week. I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be a great finish to early Fantastic season, I think.
Yeah, I think this show has surprised a lot of people. I think it's, for me especially, it's given me something that I didn't know wanted or needed so much for Star Wars, which is like a very little kid centric story, but with very adult themes and lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
And so I'm sad to see it end, but they so much of this show has been so well executed, just like the story beats as the show progresses on. I think they can really nail the finale, and I think it'll be a really well-rounded show.
hmm
I'm not feeling the way that I feel after a lot of Disney Plus shows. I've been like, how are they going to wrap all this up in one episode? And this, I'm like, I fully feel that they can do it,
Yeah.
and I'm not worried about not feeling satisfied at the end of it.
Mhm.
A lot of
Yeah.
people hoping for a longer episode. I do hope for that.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of
that's
always a
just
hope.
because I enjoy getting as much time as I can.
Yeah.
It is funny hearing people that we know that kind of also cover shows and stuff. People with kids are like, thank God, a 30-minute episode. My kids will actually watch this. And then when it's longer, they're like, my kids wouldn't sit still for this entire thing. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to make it so long that a, a an age appropriate kid wouldn't want to sit for that long and watch it. So I think they'll pull it off well, even if it's under an hour.
Yeah. It'll be one of those shows that's really fun to go back and watch at the beginning and catch all of the moments that kind of come full circle at the end, I think. Like there will be a lot of, oh, like that happened, or they said this, that kind of bring it all together in the end.
Yeah.
I think this is a good question, a final question for us to ask Savvy before we let her go. But what do we hope for Jod? Do we hope for redemption, or do we hope for straight to jail? What are we thinking?
I'm always hoping for a redemption arc, I think. And I have a special place in my heart for Long John Silver, so I do hope that he gets his moment like that where he helps the kids or the planet or the parents and himself, I think. I think that he will realize that the mission that he feels or the hope and happiness that he's seeking out through treasure isn't a physical thing. Like he could feel good about other things, like helping people and being nice. So I hope that that's it for him. That he realizes that it's not all about the mission, but it's about, like I said, like helping people and outside of himself. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but I think it would be a good lesson for him and for the kids.
No, it's not cheesy. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I guess, okay, so I don't want to see him die.
Yeah.
But as far as a redemption, I would be pleased to see him like make one last ditch effort to help these kids in some way if they're in danger or something. But I don't think that's going to fully redeem him in everyone's eyes in the show. You know, like I think they're still going to be like, all right, we're still keeping you at arm's length, Jod. And yeah, I think it would make sense and be fun to see him, and maybe him and SM-33, maybe they go back with the pirates. Like they end up capturing Jod or something, and like they're like, he's your problem now. Like get out of here. Don't come back. And maybe SM-33 goes with him, because I would hate to take pirate adventures away from 33. As much as I want to see him stick around and hang out with the kids, I don't think he would like Adadon at all.
I think that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of it. I mean, SM33 is fine. I keep saying this, but like he got his head chopped off, whatever. Like
Yeah, he has to be.
3PO
Yeah.
has been shot to pieces more times than I can count, and he's still kicking. So
Yeah.
SM33 will be rebuilt. I think I'm kind of with you. I'm leaning towards still redemption despite what happened. Like I do hope he becomes a better person and has that moment to turn around. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be upset. I agree. I don't want him to die,
Mhm.
but if he does, I hope he is like crushed by all the credits or something. Like just make it poetic.
I keep thinking of I mentioned it a bunch of times today, Alex. I keep thinking of like the end of a Scooby-Doo episode or something, where the villain is just kind of like tied up and left out defenseless, or like I could see them tying Jot up and like just giving him back to the pirates and letting them put him back in the brig right where he started.
Mhm.
Or like tying him up and being like, he's your problem now, SM33, and like he keeps an eye on him and goes back with the pirates.
I think I can see the pirates getting through and then maybe just some proof to Jod that they don't love him and never will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be the turning point of him helping to fight them off.
Mhm.
So that could be a saving grace for him. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think he's gonna keep the lightsaber?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Credits. Yeah. That would suck if he sold it though, but yeah, I think that it could go either way. I think he could either sell it and get Old Republic credits that way, or he could keep it or give it away.
He's too powerful with it. I don't think he deserves to keep it. So,
Exactly.
but I don't necessarily think that a little kid should keep it. So I don't know what to do with it. Give it to SM33.
He needs to learn to use it the right way. Like, I don't, maybe the fact that it's blue, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I'm like, that's a good guy lightsaber. Come on,
Yeah,
Jod.
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he gives the Kyber crystal to Wim.
Oh,
Mm,
that'd be cool.
yeah.
Well, we've kept you for about an hour, so we will let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. But before you do, let everyone know where they can find you and follow you and listen to you.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a great conversation. I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi going out.
Fine.
All right.
Somebody said that the barrier went up, and I thought
Yeah.
that was a really good explanation for it. But you can find me at Andorisms on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And you can find me and my co-host at Stardust Records without the O on everything. And I'm going to plug Lindsay too, because there's no Stardust without her as well. But she is at A Cosmic Love on Twitter and at Rebel Risen on Instagram. So yeah, thank you so much for having me again. It was a great time.
Thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I think we have the links for all that stuff down below, or at least for the
I actually
podcast, so.
just checked and I forgot, but I'm going to do them right now while we start to answer questions. But
Well,
thanks so much, Savvy.
yeah, thanks so much. Have a good one.
Have a great night.
You too.
Lots of love in the chat.
Yeah.
Great work. Love you. Yay.
Well, I'm going to grab those links real quick and put them down there. If you want to start answering some questions.
Yeah, so I'm
Or
gonna
asking.
I'm gonna go back up to the top of our super chats. But we don't have too many, so it shouldn't take long to catch up. Danamaniac says, crazy that the guy every character told us not to trust was a bastard. But if you can't trust a guy with 6 different names, who can you trust? Yeah, I like that everyone in the show that recognizes or knows Jod is like, that guy's trouble. That guy's no good. And we're all just like, but he's Jude Law.
Right. Basically. I mean, I agreed, like, don't trust him, but I didn't think it was going to be on this level. And yeah, Jude Law, he played him so charmingly
Mm-hmm.
up until this point, so that when he turned, I mean, in the very first scene, he airlocked an innocent man, so that should have told us something. But
That is true.
yeah, we're just trained to be like, he'll get better.
Yeah.
Mr. Doctor says the two other kids have two parents. Seems like there isn't a Mr. Farah. Can Wendell pull some heroics and win himself a new lady, and win a sister?
Could you imagine them becoming brother and sister? They would
Fight constantly.
They would butt heads. I mean, they already do, but that would be funny.
They're just starting to find their footing. I feel like they should stay friends and like let them adjust to that life first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that any of the characters really are in for any kind of romance or like relationships other than friends, because all these characters have to still learn what's going on in Adadon. I guess a lot of the adults already do, but they have to learn about the supervisor. Once they learn the truth about that, I'm pretty sure they're going to have their worlds rocked and going to have some other stuff going on in their lives.
You said no one's in line for any romance, but
Except for
Neil
Neil.
will talk to Runa.
Yeah. I remembered that as soon as I said that. I was like, wait a second.
Wait.
What about Runa? Danny Maniac also says, so what's the guess on KB's accident? Explosion? Yeah, I don't think they're gonna explore that, but I guess if I had to put a guess to it, it could have been some kind of like car accident, or because it seems like she's paralyzed.
Yeah.
Without the help of her OGs or whatever they called it.
Which now is a good time to, since we didn't really talk about last week's episode. I loved last week's episode to death. I think that's my favorite one so far.
It was really hard not doing a stream and talking about it, but we were exhausted and needed to take a week off, but we both loved it so much.
It was so good, and seeing those kids become better and better friends, and seeing Wim be a Jedi, do the most Jedi thing he's ever done without realizing it, and KB saying that, and the moment where she like admitted being afraid she'd have zero friends again, and Wim saying, well, that's dumb, you can just be friends with me and Neil, and her smiling, like, just those kids were acting their little butts off, and they
really were. It's so funny that we watched The Goonies before we watched this show, because we were both kind of like, ugh, like the kids are just so chaotic in that movie.
Yeah, they're constantly talking over each other and yelling over each other.
Which, it makes total sense, and like it was just kind of more of a product of its time, but the caliber of child acting going on in this show compared to something like The Goonies, you're just like, whoa. What Apple TV series are they all going to show up in?
Right.
Because they need to be getting more work.
I have seen people asking about KB's accident, like, could that have been Fern's fault? I really don't think so. I mean, Fern is definitely a daredevil and takes KB on scary rides and stuff, but I don't get the sense that she was responsible for any injuries that happened to KB.
I think she would have been a lot more overprotective of KB had the incident been her fault.
Agreed. Like, I don't think she would have. I think she would have been more understanding.
Yeah. But I did love that the problem was that Fern was kind of treating her too normal, like nothing was wrong, and so I thought that was a good conflict for the two of them to have.
Oh yeah, that was something else I loved, was the nuance of Fern being a good friend. I think it's a great instinct to try to treat your friend who went through something tough. Like, I'm going to treat her the same way that I used to, because she is still KB, and the OGs don't change who she is. But not acknowledging that it did change some of her capabilities, and that she can't keep up with everyone. Like, yeah, she just went too far in that direction and then
Mhm.
found the balance. And then I also love at the very end when someone needs to fly the ship, KB's the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
She had it recorded in her memory, so she is literally the only person that can turn it all on. And there's a shot of Fern looking at her with awe in her eyes, and I'm like, this is great. This is so good.
Yeah. They literally become the skeleton crew in the way that, like, they all have these specific roles to play in making this ship fly.
And they all
And
know what it is, and like
they all can
Wim
do
is
it
no
now.
longer complaining that he's not the captain or he's not flying the ship, or he's like, I know what to do. I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
It's great. Alex the Hiker, thanks for the super chat, says, can't say I remember no questions, so just gonna say hi and love your work. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Good message, great name. Father Karras says, I can't seem to shake the notion that Jude Law talked about working with the kids and at some point scaring them. Ring any bells, or am I just imagining it or confusing it with something else? I
Scaring them.
don't feel like I read a ton of interviews going into this show, but that does sound kind of familiar.
Yeah, I mean, if he had to yell at them, I'm sure having an actor as big as Jude Law, like, really act and yell in your face as a kid, that would be scary.
Especially when I assume he's delightful the rest of the time.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't there were so many good interviews going into this and our December was so crazy and busy that I didn't watch a lot of them, so I could have missed that.
Yeah, I can't specifically think back to like, oh, he said that in this interview, but it does sound familiar. But yeah, that scene where he does turn against the kids and is just so mean. I love how well he plays like being fed up with children.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays that throughout the series, but at this point, he's just so frustrated, and I feel that.
Yeah. Breaks my heart to see Wim cry though.
Yeah.
And for them to see him be like, "Oh, poor you." I was like, "Be nice."
Be
He's
nice.
crying. Thanira Ravindra, the real Republic emissary that knows about Adadon is either Mon Mothma or most likely Leia. Remember the Alderaan name drop earlier.
I don't think anyone knows about Adadon.
No, I think the emissary was a thing that hasn't happened in probably 100 plus years.
That's the vibe I'm feeling right now as well. I do not think they get regular visits from an emissary.
And
It seemed to surprise everyone.
Oh yeah. The Alderaan name drop was more to show that these kids aren't getting up-to-date history. Maybe. So
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think this is going to be a big game changer for the New Republic, for Adadon. I do think the New Republic will swoop in, help fight the pirates with X-wings.
mhm.
They're gonna not discover, but they're gonna find Adadon, and then probably it will get folded into the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a bathroom break.
Okay.
Go downstairs, but I'll be back in a sec.
Dana Maniac says Jod can get the New Vegas Dead Money ending. I've not played New Vegas, so I definitely don't know how it ends, but I'm gonna assume crushed by money. That seems like a fitting end. Again, I hope he doesn't die, but I could see that happening. Stuart, but what about the other 8 planets? I mean, I think that my understanding right now is that they were all mints. The jewels of the Old Republic were all mints of the Old Republic, and most of them were discovered, destroyed, messed up, like at fell into war, like at Akron. I don't think that they're really around anymore, and they're not like planets of eternal treasure the same way that Adadon is. Lord Hosk says the entire galaxy uses physical currency, and I love it. It is like when you think about the Sabbat game in Solo: A Star Wars Story, and you see people just throwing literal sticks into the pile as if like, yeah, that's currency where I'm from, and people seem to know that and value it, but that would be a nightmare to try to keep track of what all was in that pot. But yeah, I like seeing all of the currency like that. I have to assume that there are also digital ways of payment, but maybe not, or else Han would have and should have PayPal'd Jabba a lot faster.
What are we talking about? Oh, the physical currency.
Yeah.
That would be crazy, finding that much physical money. What was it? 1,139
39.
vaults of cash money.
They did 2 almost Star Wars jokes in this episode.
Yeah, we almost got I have a bad feeling about this. And yeah, if you're not counting the one that you're currently in, there are 1138 other vaults.
Father Karras has another super chat. Thank you. At least 2 times offloading is mentioned. Reads as removing something from the Onyx Ender rather than moving credits on. Don't know what to make of that. I had the same thought.
When was offloading mentioned?
Twice the droids or maybe the supervisor said it when the ship was coming in, that the emissary is here to offload. It does sound like they're here to take credits off of their ship, but I guess it could mean we're going to offload our credits onto their ship. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for wherever the mint is, we're offloading because this is where we make it. So we're offloading the money to then be distributed, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the terminology of
I think they meant we're going to offload our credits and they're going to take them off planet, but it did seem like weird wording.
Oh, sorry, I was catching up. Dr. Mundi, Adadon's barrier reminds me of the separatist ones surrounding Iego. I almost said Lego.
Oh, yeah, I did too.
Iego that we saw in the Clone Wars with a nebula to supplement the electricity. I very vaguely remember that because I remember being excited to see Iego, but I don't remember how similar it would have been to this.
It did have it was literally a grid from what I can recall that was just full of electricity. I think it put a shield up that ships couldn't pass through. But yeah, it is kind of similar.
I think this kind of technology, obviously it's existed for a long time, and maybe the reason why they didn't continue to use this technology in the future was just people found too many ways around it. And because then you start asking, okay, well, why doesn't every planet create this boundary around it so no one can come or go?
I mean, it doesn't seem like they have a common way of getting through it. But
right.
Yeah, something happened to the other 8. We saw the one on Adakron that was kind of just messed up. So yeah, you're right that there were 4 or 8 other planets that fell despite having these barriers.
Well, we saw that a lot of their satellites were destroyed. So I wonder if instead of thinking, oh, that's a poisonous maelstrom, we can't go in there, or it would be suicide to go in there, maybe people figured out about the barrier satellites and started destroying them, and that's how they got through.
Yeah. I mean, if you had a big enough fleet, you could probably just start shooting at the red dots.
Yeah. We don't know that every planet had the exact same barrier situation too.
Bill Rooklyn, thanks for the super chat, says Jod and Brutus as the evil Han and Chewbacca. They are pretty well mirrored.
But even if they were evil, I don't think Han would shoot and kill Chewbacca.
That's as far in the opposite direction as you could go.
Yeah. I like thinking of... I keep... Now that I've put this idea in my head, I like the idea of Jod and 33 kind of buddying up a little bit. If he turns it around and like isn't a jerk all the time.
Maybe 33 could become the captain of the Onyx Cinder, and
I thought
Jod
of
will be
that
the first
too.
mate.
Yeah, I thought of that too. Because I was like, he's got to keep going out and being a pirate. And I would love it if the Onyx Cinder, like, if they let it go and continue to be this legendary pirate ship, but it could come and go to Adadon. So 33 and Jod, if he gets redeemed, can come back and like visit the kids.
Although I kind of hope the kids get to keep it somehow, or their parents, or something. I think I would prefer that. But...
Yeah, next time that kid challenges Fern to a race, she's like, "Cool, I'll get in my Onyx Cinder."
Yeah.
You want to race me in that?
I do think we're going to see Bonj Falfa again. Just like, if it's just for one shot, to have him get like a little bit of comeuppance.
We got to see him with like the doofiest look on his face, like, what?
Seeing Fern be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew 711 says, how come the pirates didn't use or have probe droids, or at least vulture droids? I guess they just didn't.
Maybe they don't like using droids. They want to do everything by hand.
They probably didn't think it was that dangerous. Like, they didn't know they were going to explode. They were just like, let's fly through it and see what would happen. Uh-oh, Glurb exploded.
Oh no, Glurb!
Not Glurb. His glowweed plantation.
Oh.
So, I mean, vulture droids, they might just not have that, but a probe droid, that does seem like something they could have potentially had, and maybe they were like,
They don't... Doesn't seem like they have a ton of well-working technology, so I think it's fine that they were just like, someone go out there and scope it out.
It is true that like all of their armor and stuff is cobbled together. For like Kona is wearing patrol trooper armor, at least partially. So yeah, they're just working with what they have. They're not that well outfitted.
I wouldn't be upset if Kona was the new captain. I feel like
she's getting a lot of focus, and I like that. But so is Chelt, and Chelt has been very helpful.
True. Maybe they have like a little co-captain situation. Danny Maniac has the next two. We were talking a lot earlier about Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's biggest gun being the gun that we see on Adakred on top of the school, and whether or not we're going to see that again on Adadon. Hope we do.
I think we will.
And then as a Trekkie, I couldn't help but blurt out, what is, I don't know that Star Trek word, Latinum? Look at all that Latinum when they open the vault.
I'm going to assume that's Trekkie for gold.
Oh.
Star Wars has a rhodium. Trekkies have Latinum? I don't know. One of these days I'll get back into Star Trek.
Gold.
I've had like the urge to watch Deep Space Nine again.
I've really not seen hardly any Star Trek. I saw the Tribbles episode a long time ago. We watched that one and I was like, this is crazy. But I knew it was going to be.
I've seen all the movies. I've seen quite a bit of Next Generation growing up and Deep Space Nine, and my dad watched a lot of Trek. So all of those eras, we watched some Voyager, but I never like watched all of it. Maybe someday.
One day.
What's up, Ice? And thanks for the super chat. Happy New Year, guys. Did I read that? My brain is messing with me.
Ooh, that cold medicine's kicking in.
For people who missed, I'm on cold medicine. So I'm like, I know I read that, but that felt weird. Happy New Year, guys. The last 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew have been great. Loved last week's, and this one was such a cliffhanger. I'm sad we're nearing the end, but it's such a fun ride from episode 1 until now. Fully agree. I'm having a great time with this series. The episodes 4 through now especially have fully hooked me.
This might be like, obviously we rewatch a lot of the shows and stuff, but typically once we kind of get done with a season of a show, I'll want to like take a break and maybe revisit it down the line. This feels like a show that I might want to binge all the way through in just like a day or two, right after seeing it and finding out all the stuff that we find out in the finale. I think it would be fun to just binge the whole thing.
I mean, yeah, I do still think that it feels like a very long movie, which I think that's just what series have become. And
This
like,
would have been such a good movie.
yeah, I agree.
Incredible movie.
But
I mean, it's
I
a great
don't,
show, but
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if they would have had the time to explore the characters as much. Like, I don't know if we would have gotten that slowed down episode 6 that
Yeah.
we got, and I adore it. So I'm like, I would, knowing what that was, I would rather have it, keep it as a series, but I do think it would have made a great movie, which John Watts has said that was the original pitch.
hmm
It's just like, I mean, I've said, yeah, last week's episode was my favorite episode, but that even feels silly. Like Skeleton Crew, just to break it up into episodes feels silly. Like I just like the whole story.
Yeah, because there's such specific things going on in each episode that make the last one feel better. I don't know if I can pick a favorite one. I still think the first episode might be my favorite. It's the one I've seen the most times. It's the one where I fell in love with all these kids. And I saw Neil for the first time. I'll never forget it.
I saw this, made me laugh. Figure Numo, do you still think Skeleton Crew is going to end with Life Day? No, I let that one go a while ago, but still think it was a fun holiday watch. Without, I mean, we got some Life Day Easter eggs in there, the holiday special, but no, I don't think this actually has a Life Day connection as a surprise ending.
We could have a Life Day special set on Adadon starring
There we go.
starring Neil and his whole family. Now, most of those kids are too old now to film anything new and have it be around the same time, but they can finagle Neil to look pretty much the same because of all
And
the CG in his face.
his siblings are all like puppets. So.
Yeah. So a whole Neil family holiday special.
And we wouldn't need, well, I mean, the Wookiees didn't even have subtitles, but we would be able to understand what they're saying. What a concept.
That would be so cute. Oh my God, I have to have that. Who do I write?
Mr. Star Wars.
Dear Bob.
Matthew Byron, thank you for the super chat. I enjoyed Kim, but I'm kind of getting new character fatigue. What do you think of this? I'd rather them have inserted a character we're already semi-familiar with, like Maz Kanata or Dr. Aphra.
I think for a show like this, that is so detached from what we already know, I haven't gotten any new character fatigue because it doesn't have anything to do with what we already know.
I fully agree. I did think Aphra might have been in that third episode, but being like very specifically an astro, I forget what word, astrologist or whatever Kim was, a studier of, is it just astrologist? God.
Astrogeologist?
I don't remember.
That's a made up word.
Yeah, I said the clone, the cold medicine is going to mess with me.
Astrogration?
Yes, that's the word she used.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was something that was very specific, and like Aphra would not have fit there. I think that they needed a new character, that was their specialty, and so I'm very happy with Kim. I will say that sometimes, like in The Mandalorian, I have felt new character fatigue, because they do introduce a lot of characters, but not, I don't know if fatigue is the right word. It's just like
I do feel that sometimes in the High Republic.
that's actually, yes, I agree
That
with that.
there are so many new characters popping up in every new book and comic in the High Republic that I love, because it's really doing a good job at fleshing out that time period, but it's hard to keep up with.
Like, as we're entering the final wave, and like the second to last wave was still introducing new characters and new characters, and I was like, there were already a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I start to feel a little fatigue.
For me too, especially just having that sheer amount of characters in books and the comics, I guess you can have more of a visual aid, but for the books, I have such a hard time if I can't see the new character with this new name. I have a hard time remembering that if I don't have like a picture to associate it with, which we have gotten, thankfully, a lot of art for the High Republic, but it's still kind of a struggle for me.
I do agree that like Maz Kanata is a pirate queen. I see people talking about that, and I mean, yeah, she's a pirate. Hondo's a pirate. There are people who I think it would have made sense to fold them into the story, but Maz Kanata is not necessarily an astrograder.
Yeah. Well, too, if they had brought Hondo into this show, he would have stolen the limelight, like very
That's like
intensely. That would
all
have been
people would have
kind of
talked about. Yeah,
exactly. That would have been kind of disappointing a little bit. Just to see a fan favorite character like that come in and take over the attention. I'm glad that we didn't get anything like that.
Yeah. If
We
we get a
didn't-
second season, then kind of like The Mandalorian brought in more and more characters, familiar characters, maybe
Yeah.
that would happen. Or there's always the possibility that in the future we'll see characters from Skeleton Crew pop up in Ahsoka season 2, or Mando and Grogu or something.
Yeah, there's already been hints that some of these kids or all of them might end up in Filoni's movie.
Right.
So.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Or Jude Law. I mean, he's a movie star, so this could all be set up for him eventually appearing.
He could get like a mini redemption in this finale and then get a bigger redemption and something down the road.
Yeah.
Love that. Lindsay Brown, thank you for the super chat. Very generous super chat. Jod mentioned that the Force provided the kids as his solution. He may have been hamming it up, but I do believe that their paths will have crossed for a good reason. Maybe he will free the planet from the supervisor. I think saying he would free the planet from the supervisor is giving him way too much credit, but he is part of the series of events that may lead to the freedom of this planet.
Agreed.
But yes, it's kind of like it's all part of destiny or something like that.
Yeah, I fully believe he was hamming it up, and I loved all that. I'm a sucker for people who just like blurt out Jedi platitudes, trying to convince other people that they're Jedi. I loved Haja in Obi-Wan Kenobi for the same reason, so I was into all of that. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what role he plays in the finale. Tommy K, thanks for the super chat. What color lightsaber did you want to see? Blue is fine, but I was hoping for a yellow. Maybe Jod starts to bleed it subconsciously, like in the Acolyte. I don't know. Yellow would have been cool, but I didn't really have any hope or expectation for what color the lightsaber would be. I don't know what Molly's doing, but yeah, I mean, yellow does feel yellow or purple or like a different color would have made it feel more old or High Republic. So I would not have minded that at all. So in that sense, maybe I would have wanted yellow. I do love seeing a yellow lightsaber. I'll just let Molly keep doing what she's doing. Calm like a bomb. Thank you for being a member of the 603rd. I know that redemption is a Star Wars thing, but I'm glad Jod is an unrepentant sob. It's going to make rewatching the show interesting knowing who he is. I agree. I am very curious to go back and see those moments where I do think he's being honest with the kids, but also see the moments where he lets that frustration out. So yeah, I'm very happy with how he's acting right now. I mean, like, for a story level, I'm not happy he's making the kids cry, but that turn was just something I wasn't expecting, at least for him to turn so hard.
Hi,
What happened to you?
can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Hilo unplugged my headphones,
And then he came in here.
so you can talk to your son about that.
Hilo, what are you doing?
He just like barely nudged it, and then they came unplugged from, I think, up here, and so I had to restart
He's like, I'm ready for you to come downstairs and play with me.
StreamYard. I know he saw me come downstairs, and he's like, "Oh, you're done." And then I came back up here, and now he's mad. Oops.
Toby K, thank you for another super chat. You've said a few times that Skeleton Crew has no real connection to Mandoverse, but Vane did appear in the Mandalorian. To be honest, I thought he would be more front and center in Skeleton Crew.
That is a great point.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like, he was barely in it, and it kind of just feels like they were like, "Oh, we should have something that connects this."
It is, yeah, the pirates and specifically Vane, but like Gorian Shard's ship had that same paint color scheme, the black and white stripes.
Yeah.
So I think that those episodes of The Mandalorian did serve to kind of like, all right, let's get people ready for pirates, kind of ease them into this idea that we're going to be dealing with a lot of pirates and Skeleton Crew.
Mhm.
But yeah, they have been so reserved with how they use Vane. I agree with you, Tommy. I thought that he would be like one of the primary villains of the show. Like, he could have served the Brutus role or something, but
Yeah.
he's just kind of there.
I do like the idea that because of that, I think Vane is just not an important pirate amongst the other pirates. They're just like, "Who's that? Who?"
Okay, here's a thought that in the finale he will cut and run again, just like he did with Gorian Shard.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they'll be in a big dogfight with the X-Wings and stuff, and he's like, "Not again. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go find another pirate crew." And then
Yeah.
he'll pop up in Mando and Grogu or something.
It would have been so cool to get a Gorian Shard shout out or name drop or something.
Like, if they made fun of him for being part of Gorian Shard's crew, like they called
green
him
mop.
they called him a pirate king, and I'm like, was he? They don't seem too beat up about losing him.
Yeah. Watch, he'll be the supervisor. He never really died.
Yeah.
Stephen Ray Morris, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for all the greatest coverage over the holidays. If Skeleton Crew is connected to the Mandoverse, will any planets or pirates return later? So along the same lines as what we've been talking about, I think all the rumors about the kids showing up in something Filoni related in the future seem pretty likely. I don't know if Adadon is ever gonna pop up in anything again, because it seems like it could get really messy if like a lot of other people found out about this place.
I'm sure it will. I think it's gonna pop up at some point.
Yeah.
But
what are they gonna
yeah,
do
I
with
mean-
all that money?
Well, see, yeah, that's the thing, is that if they just like take all that money and dump it out into the galaxy, it's going to lose all its value.
Maybe to pay back the citizens for dealing with this weird secrecy for so long, they just kind of divvy up some of it and give it to people, and it's like, okay, here's enough money to leave this planet if you want to, because you have never really been told that you can.
Sure. Yeah. Like, let's make all the parents and families that live there uber rich.
Only if they want to leave and start a life somewhere else.
They might want to.
Yeah, and I think they should pay for them to do that if they all find out that the supervisor is a load of baloney and they've been kept there for no good reason.
I like when you try not to swear.
I'm
So
trying very
innocent.
hard.
But yeah, I even if Adadon doesn't show up like in Mandoverse shows or any of the movies, it's gonna pop up in books or at least get mentioned and stuff. And I just said my piece about Vane. I kind of hope he makes it out and cuts and runs again.
Yeah, if we don't ever see any of Neil or Neil's species ever again, it will be a very sad day.
Mm-hmm. Galen Good, thank you for the super chat. I've been loving the show. The first few episodes felt like it would be better binging them, but last week and this week have been easier to watch. Excited for the finale. You two are awesome. That's a person who agrees with me. That I was like, I did kind of wish that we could have binged the first three. But 4 and beyond really, really hooked me and sold me on the show, seeing how well everything had been set up in those first 3. And I just, couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, it's maybe it was because of when the show started or how early we got the screeners. I feel like it took several episodes for us to really get into it. We were hooked from the start, but we were just kind of like, eh. But
I mean, I was like, it's good.
yeah,
It hadn't blown me away yet. And then episodes 4 through now, I'm like, okay, yeah. Like it really has blown me away on several levels of writing and acting and action set pieces. So I've reversed my decision on that.
also part of it for me too, just full transparency, after dealing with all the like fandom stuff with the Acolyte, I was hesitant to talk about this show online, and that's like what we do. So part of it was just kind of getting back into the swing of that and like testing the waters a little bit.
I agree with Bionic Punk that none of these episodes have been boring. Can't say the same to Mando. I was like kind of
That's
iffy
true.
on season 1 of Mando. I feel like it takes me a little bit of time to get into just about all of these shows, just to understand what they are. The first episode, I was like, this is pretty good, but the Baby Yoda moment at the end really hooked me. Like, that was a fantastic hook. And then episode 2 confused me. I enjoyed it. It made me laugh, but I would like the Jawa chase scene and everything. But I was like, this is not what I thought this show was gonna be. And then episode 3, I really liked, and then 4 and especially 5, I was like not vibing with 5 and Toro Calican. So like season 1 of Mando was kind of all over the place for me, but then getting 7 and 8, I thought was a great end. And now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I like season 1. And I really love some of the episodes, but yeah, I do think Skeleton Crew has been very solid throughout. And yeah, I've never been bored, and I've never walked away from any episode thinking like, oof, that was that Tatooine episode of Mando season 1. That wasn't my vibe.
I mean, it's just like especially with Mandalorian, I think as a hardcore Star Wars fan, like getting used to seeing Star Wars stories being told in a show format, especially with a streaming show format, it's going to take some getting used to, and it's still taking some getting used to with a lot of people, just getting the feel for, okay, that was a weird point for them to end it. why did they end it there? Why didn't they just like keep going to this point? And we've talked a lot about pacing in the shows, and I feel like just the art of Star Wars storytelling in the TV show format is still kind of has its ups and downs.
It's not just Star Wars. It's like all streaming right now. Is that
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far down this road because I've been an old man yelling at clouds already, but it's just like
You haven't done that in several episodes.
These are like more mini series to me than a TV show like The X-Files or Buffy, where a lot of the episodes can stand alone. And yes, they contribute to larger plots for the entire season, but for the most part, you could just kind of like throw any old episode of Buffy on, and it's a pretty decent entry point into the show. Whereas not so much with just this whole streaming era. I feel like all of them are so highly serialized, but that's just what it is now. So, okay. Oh, go ahead.
I'll read this one. Power Rangers Explained. Thank you for the super chat. Fun fact, Chunk from the Goonies, the actor of Chunk owns the rights to the 1990s show Big Bad Beetleborgs.
I remember Big Bad Beetleborgs.
You do?
Uh-huh.
I don't. Should I?
Probably not. That doesn't seem like something you'd be into.
What network was it on?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I followed channels.
What channel number was it on?
I'll see if I can find it. I remember watching it. I think in the morning.
Get out your movie guide or your TV
It was
guide.
another Saban show, so like kind of like Power Rangers. I'm trying to find what channel it was on.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Fox Kids. Okay.
All right. Interesting.
Matthew Byron, thank you for the next one. I think so many of us loved Skeleton Crew because we came in with no expectations, but makes me nervous for Andor Season 2, since many are going into this with expectations. I mean, expectations are always, and this is true of me for sure, but I think expectations, it's like impossible to not form them the deeper you are into something. I mean, I had expectations for Skeleton Crew, but not as many as like a Mandalorian season 3 or Andor season 2, to your point. Yeah, I agree that I think it's easier, especially for me, to go into like any random movie with zero expectations. But when it's a Star Wars thing, I expect a lot, and that's difficult.
Yeah. The whole expectations and fandoms is just hard to approach. It makes me nervous for Andor season 2. Yeah. I think that's why I kind of loved this show more and more, because I didn't have a ton of expectations.
And I mean, I think it helps to have a series that's just set itself apart from other things. That, I mean, it's part of the universe, it's part of the Mandoverse, but it doesn't have to do with that plot so much. It's just its own thing, introducing its own characters and planets and plot lines. So that's part of the reason it works so well for me, I think.
Yeah. You can tell Hilo's getting restless. He keeps. Yeah. I have my door open now, so he keeps kind of like coming in and out of both of our offices.
All right, I'm going to take a big breath because Ice, thank you so much. Here we go. I was a little disappointed with Brutus's death, but that might just be shock and processing, but I was floored by that scene. Jod was just infuriating, but also very captivating. Jude just got to unload. But his absolute giddiness at seeing all the credits was a lot of fun. It just made me laugh, even if I am super against Jod right now. I don't know if it's just me, or I find it hilarious that apparently the most famous pirate vessel in the galaxy was essentially once owned by a bank. Rin had modified it with the guns, but that's a funny origin story, and he must have had it for a while if the name is so associated with him.
He also camouflaged it quite well.
It feels like we have a lot of interesting pirate lore we can extrapolate, but we actually know very little. The world building has been great, in my opinion. I agree. And I do want to talk about the ship a little bit. Like, it is the ship and the name is associated with him. I wonder if he had another ship called the Onyx Cinder or something, and then he got a hold of this one and renamed it, or maybe he stole this ship and flew it around for a little while before going. Like, it does sound like it took a while to figure out where Adadon was. So during that adventure is probably when he made a name for himself in the ship.
Yeah. I don't know when he would have gotten it, or like, I do like the idea that it had been kind of paraded around town for a bit, and he collected the armor kind of as time went on. But yeah,
He did make that recording after the fact. He's like, we found the coordinates. I've put armor on the ship. Here we go.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure, but I like the idea that he was flying that ship around searching for Adadon, which had to have been frustrating. He's like, I know this ship came from there.
Do you think, wherever he found the ship, or whenever he decided to like commandeer the ship, do you think he knew where it was coming from and that it was a key to get back in?
I'm going to guess yes. I think he had that goal, knew about Adadon, and was intent, just like Jod, he was like intent on finding this planet. And so I think he probably had that plan of like, I have to get a ship, a mint ship. Maybe he figured that out at Akron or another one of those planets.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because yeah, he was definitely on at Akron. I forgot about all that. Maybe he got some information. Oh, hi.
He's-
Hi, Hilo. Hilo has stuff to add. Oh, he's getting antsy because we've been on for so long, but yeah, I don't know. I'll be really interested to see what we do learn about Takrinid in the finale. Regular, thank you for the super chat. While it's not a show to throw in superfluous cameos or crossovers, if there's a season 2, are there any known Star Wars pirates you'd want to see? Hondo, Maz? Sure, I mean, I'm glad they weren't in season 1, but if we get a season 2, I say go nuts with pirate-related cameos if you want to.
Yeah, I'm still just waiting for Hondo to pop up in something. He feels like he could have fit in just about every single live-action Disney Plus show.
Because
almost.
I've talked about what I would like to see in a season 2, because there would have to be a time jump. A lot of the kids are a lot older and different looking now, and will be even more different looking and older whenever if they decide to do a season 2. So that we're going to have to see a big time jump, and then I assume there would be some reason for all these kids to get back together, reunite with 33, maybe Jod if he keeps his act together, reunite with the Onyx Cinder, and like for whatever reason 33 and Jod need these kids for some mission, and like they all reunite and go off together. Then I would be okay to kind of planet hop and cameo hop a little bit and have these guest star appearances from really well-known Star Wars characters.
We also don't even know that a season 2 would center around pirates. So
that's true too.
Yeah, who knows where they could go and what they would do.
Maybe they go clean up at Akron and save all those poor people eating slop every day.
Yeah, let's give them some of this money.
Oh yeah, that's where they can send all the money to. Good point.
Ice, thanks for a couple more. But it'd be close enough. Might be one of my favorite lines in the whole show. The scene with the punch was perfect. It had me in stitches. I think SM33 was just looking for an excuse. Kind of agree. And honestly, Rena's plan was pretty smart, like using an armored car to get into a bank or Return of the Jedi, fly
of the Jedi.
casual until the auto landing kicks in.
Kelly makes a good point. Hondo's busy on Batu. Canonically, if we see him pop up anywhere else, he cannot be on Batu for any of those kids watching Skeleton Crew. And he's in it.
That's years later.
But I'm saying it might ruin the magic for kids watching the show if they see Hondo there. They're gonna be like, wait.
Sure.
Lost Cosmic Jedi has the next super chat. Do you think the contents of the Adadon vaults should be donated to at the Rats Tyrell Foundation? Oh,
they should go take care of Ad Akron, and then yes, the rest of it can go to the Rats Tyrell Foundation.
It definitely should not go to a bunch of pirates, but yeah, I'm sure we can find some good homes for all that Old Republic money.
This money needs a good home.
Oh.
I says, so who do you think will be the cavalry in episode 8? I'm thinking Catholips comes in to save the day. Really, though, I think they're going to get themselves out of it. They do know something Jod doesn't. Neil knows that Adadon is fully equipped to repel an invasion and that their school has a massive gun. Even if the frigate gets through, I'm guessing they have enough firepower to take it down. Yeah, I do think the pirates are going to get through. I think we're going to see the big gun, but I think they're going to call Kim and bring in help from the New Republic. I feel like that was established enough in episode 3.
I almost don't want the New Republic to show up on Adadon because that just feels like
it's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, that feels like then they're going to be like, well, we're taking over now. We know what's best for this planet now, when they haven't known that it even existed up until now. And the people of Adadon are going to be like, get out of here. Let us fix our own problems. So I kind of don't want the New Republic to show up there. But I don't know. We keep talking about the Chekhov's gun. I do want to see the big gun on the school if they have one.
That I would rather that. If we had to choose between the gun or the New Republic, I choose gun.
Sure. Why do they need the New Republic or the X-Wings?
Yeah, we have gun.
We have gun. We have big gun on school. Milo, I see you, buddy. I'm sorry. If my camera could tilt down, I would show him to you all.
Cassia Pipe, thanks for the super chat. This is building on the Oz idea. Jod as Dorothy ends up coming through a storm and discovers that the ruler is a fake and Tin Man Heartless combination. Oh, Jod as Dorothy and the Tin Man.
Sorry, he unplugged my headset again.
Again? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It wasn't as bad of an unplug this time. I think his tail just hit it and it's loose. Jod as Dorothy.
Going through a storm, discovering the ruler is fake. But also he's heartless, so he's the Tin Man.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had a hard time truly assigning all the and we don't need to do that.
Yeah, I don't think the show is I do think it is inspired by The Wizard of Oz to a degree, but not in like a one-to-one way. Even though it is fun, it's fun to find these parallels.
More so the idea of having one person to rule this entire community and we don't really know anything about them and it's kind of a mystery and we all just kind of trust that they're the best thing for us.
Yeah.
And then luckily we got a good group of other characters that all serve specific story purposes.
Yeah.
Lightspeed Bear, thank you for the super chat. I agree the way episodes end is jarring. But to be fair, in 4 to 5 years' time, I'm not going to remember or care where the episodes start or end, just the overall story. That is very true. I kind of dislike when people say, "Oh, once we know everything and watch it all again, everything will make sense," because for the most part, I think casual fans don't rewatch these shows
Sure.
and shouldn't be expected to watch it all again to understand it.
I think like I just feel that a lot of these mini-series style shows, you kind of have to rewatch it all. It I can't imagine me saying to you like, "Hey, let's watch episode 3 of Skeleton Crew." It's like, no, we'd probably just rewatch the whole thing. And it's only 8 episodes. That's very doable.
But
So
I
there
think
is that, but hold on. But there are other shows like Buffy or X-Files, whatever that we like a lot, Parks and Rec, where it's Christmas time. Let's watch the Christmas episodes where obviously, I mean, unless they do have a surprise Life Day surprise at the end of episode 8. But even then, it's like you wouldn't want to just watch that episode. You got to watch all of it, I feel, for it to be like a complete meal of a story.
Sure. I do think the no more than 12 episode of Andor is the exception. Never more than 12, sorry.
One Way Out or
yeah, basically.
Well, see, even with Andor, I'm like, I think I'd want to watch the entire prison arc.
But that's you.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying, think of the general public if they were just shown that episode, one of those 2 episodes, they would probably be like a little hyped.
Sure.
Be like, oh, I'm hooked. Or it would be stupid to watch the season 2 Mandalorian finale by itself. But if you want to hook somebody, be like, hey, Luke Skywalker is in this. He shows up at the end. And someone might be like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. And they watch that one episode, and that is what convinces them to watch the whole show.
Right.
There's always
I'm not talking about trying to convince someone to watch the show. I'm just saying I don't think a lot of episodes in any series that's on streaming these days, they tend to not stand alone as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the Buffy episodes, though, you'd be so confused to what's going on.
That is fair. You're right. Because when you first tried to get me into Buffy, you would show me really great episodes, and the whole
And
time
you're like, okay.
You were like trying to explain all the relationships. So you're right. That's true.
So I think for shows that we have seen a lot over time and really love, it's easy to say, well, yeah, you can show someone any of these episodes and they'll fall in love with it. But yeah,
But I do think if we were to go and just watch Hush for Buffy, like that is a story with a start and an end.
Yeah. I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
You're just really hard to please, so I was trying to show you the best of the best. It's true. It's true.
Buffy's amazing. We should rewatch Buffy at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you rewatch it like every year.
I have trouble rewatching that show actually from start to finish because there are so many episodes.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there's issues with both sides. Because if we just want to watch all of The Mandalorian, we can do that pretty quickly, and that's nice.
7 seasons of like, I forget how many episodes are in the first season.
Like 13 in season 1, and then
13 to 22 episodes depending on the season. It's a big commitment, but it certainly pays off.
Yes. Anyway. Jared Ouellette, thanks for the super chat. If the kids were a band, what would each of them play? KB's on the synthesizer.
KB's on the synthesizer. I think Fern is the lead singer. Wim as a lead guitar, and Neil as drums.
I was going to go Wim for drums because I felt that was a little more chaotic, but then I'm not sure what Neil would do. Give him something brass and make it a ska band.
Make him play his own trunk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There. He doesn't need an instrument. He is the instrument. Solved that.
Yeah. I guess I was giving Wim lead guitar player energy, but
I mean, I can see that too.
that's just, I think he would enjoy kind of the spotlight and the fame of that position.
That's true. I think you're right. What's the most adventurous instrument?
Everyone knows that is the xylophone.
Kevin Kopic just really quick asked, when am I going to do an FAQ for the Rise of Skywalker?
They have been asking that. Oops, why did I bring that back up? They've been asking that for a while, and I was going to interrupt you at one point and ask you to answer it.
It's coming out next month. Been working on it, but Skeleton Crew took precedence, and then yeah, once we're going to be in between Skeleton Crew and Andor, I'm going to do an FAQ for Skeleton Crew, and then it'll be the Rise of Skywalker, and then we'll get some more of them done in between Skeleton Crew and Andor.
Because there are a lot of questions to be answered from Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I did pick more than 40, I think.
Oh, okay, good. I saw this earlier and responded in the chat, but thanks, Andy, for being a channel member. Andy said, thank you so much for your card. It came yesterday. Loving the show and your coverage.
I knew it would take a long time to get to Australia, but it did really take a long time. But I'm glad it made it.
We were like, how many stamps do we put on this?
I just kind
year,
of put, I think 3 stamps on it and crossed my fingers. Every
year, if we send stuff to Australia or Canada, we just kind of like put several stamps on it and hope that it makes it there.
Gregular, thanks to the super chat, says the droids greeted Jod with the same "we've been expecting you" energy as the Kaminoans greeted Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think they were absolutely programmed to do that. Like, they probably don't think it's weird that they haven't seen an emissary for a while. I mean, I don't know the last time they've seen an emissary. I'm just assuming it's been a while.
Do droids even have the same concept of time as we do?
I think so.
Who's to say?
I think they do.
But yeah, I think when they have an Adadon ship come in, it probably like triggers something where they're just like, aha, we know how to do this. We know this program. Let's run it.
Yeah.
You want to read these last two?
It's your turn.
Oh. I'm tired and I'm hungry. Ice, thank you for the last 2 super chats here. Last one, episode 6. I loved all the characters, but I really connected with KB in episode 6. He really hit home as someone with autism/high anxiety. Her fears and worries were exactly my experience and why I wasn't forthcoming about my diagnosis for a long time. To see it handled so beautifully in Star Wars was wonderful and validating. Thanks for the great streams. Yeah, again, I feel like we picked a terrible time to take a break, but it was New Year's week and we were really exhausted. But that episode was really, really good and really special and really important for Star Wars.
I do think that no matter what, unless next week is just an absolute crazy banger, I think episode 6 is going to be my favorite one. And the one that I went from like, I went from I like this show to wow, this is really good. And then last week I was like, okay, this is amazing. Like it fully knocked it up into a higher tier for me last week. Because I loved the relationship between the kids so much, and KB's story especially was so sweet.
Yeah. I really do like I wonder if Bryce Dallas Howard, because she didn't write the episode, but I'm wondering if they chose an episode to cover KB's side of things and like to cover a little bit of the kids dealing with the tension between each other. If they're like, we need somebody to really do this well, and if they were like trying to get Bryce Dallas Howard to do this episode, or if she chose to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I don't either. Because like she, and rightfully so, she has gotten a lot of credit and she deserves all of it. But we should also credit the wonderful writing that has gone on throughout this entire show. And so I'm wondering if like the writers saw how important the story was in this particular episode and they were like, who do we know that can really knock this out of the park as far as directing?
Yeah, I do think they probably look at their scripts and try to match someone to them. But yeah, I really hope they do a gallery for this. We never got any making of for Andor. Haven't seen any making of for Acolyte. So Skeleton Crew, I would love to just... The behind the scenes has got to be a joy to watch with all those kids.
Yeah. And I kind of figured that some of the making of and gallery stuff was put on hold because of COVID. But I feel like we're past that. I think, when was Skeleton Crew filmed? 2021?
I think 2 years ago, because it was supposed to come out last year. I don't, not 21. That was really early. I think it was filmed in like 23.
Oh, really? I thought it was filmed early.
Wait, when was London? Maybe 22, because we did see footage in London.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. I don't remember.
Whenever it happened. I think it was enough time after COVID where I'm sure they were still having to follow a lot of the COVID procedures, but they may have had a little more time to say like, hey, we want to do a gallery for this.
Yeah. And Wendy Carr said in an interview, Bryce said she did not have a choice of episodes. So yeah, they chose her for that.
That makes sense.
Good choice.
And I like that we have that answer now, because I feel like Bryce is working with the writers and the writers are working with the directors, and it was a communal effort.
And Dave McHugh, thanks so much for the super chat as well, but saying the same thing. Bryce said in an interview last week that she is given episodes she does not get to choose.
Yeah.
Well, she knocks it out of the park every time.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, we should wrap up because my brain is fried and I need to blow my nose real bad.
I can hear it in your voice.
Thank you everyone for putting up with my stuffy nosed voice. I hope it wasn't too jarring. We will almost definitely be live streaming again tomorrow. I want to keep building the Onyx Cinder. I feel like I'm coming out the other side of this cold, but unless I'm incredibly wrong, we will be streaming. But yeah, I'm feeling better today than I was yesterday. So
we got the Onyx Cinder for Christmas, so we gotta build it, even though I wish we had two different sets for the Onyx Cinder now, one with all the armor, the pirate armor, and one without.
It happens every time. We get the Razor Crest and then it blows up, and then we get the Onyx Cinder, and now I'm like, oh, but I want that one too.
I mean, this is just a good chance for them to sell a whole other Onyx Cinder set that's like Onyx Cinder clean.
They know what they're doing. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you for sending in your questions, and thank you again to Savvy for joining us for the first half of the episode. Go check her and Stardust Records out. I did get those links in the description, but we're going to go grab some dinner and some NyQuil. And I'm going to blast off.
Whoa. Oh boy.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.